This is Jesus, James, and Mark. And I'm Mark.
And I'm James.
Episode 54?
54.
Wow. So, here we are. This is, if you're just joining us, if this is your first time, let me just, as we've introduced ourselves, we are just two ordinary guys, as my stumbling over my words should tell you, that are Christians, and we are reading, studying the Bible, and again, we don't claim to be anything. Neither one of us are,
not
pastors.
Yeah.
Right. We are just two ordinary men exploring the Word of God together, and we're inviting you into this. And you can listen to our podcast on many platforms. However you're joining us, thank you. Please hit like and subscribe for notifications. Click on that bell. You can also, we invite you to share the experience. You can find us on Spotify, on iHeart. You can find us on, Apple Podcast. You can find us on Amazon Audible. And you can find us on YouTube, Jesus, James, and Mark. And find us on Facebook as well at Jesus, James, and Mark. And if you please send us an email to, as I mentioned, you can comment on any one of the videos. You can also send us an email at jesusjamesmark@gmail.com.
And I guess we would hope that you watching us stumble our way through this would inspire you to dig into it yourself.
Please.
You need to read. And we go by 1 Corinthians 2:2. We know nothing but Christ and him crucified. So
yeah,
you keep that at the center, and I think it'll all be well.
That's what we always say. Just circle back to that if you need to, and as many times as you need to. So where we are studying Genesis right now, the first book of the Bible. And where we left off is, to me, interesting because I wanted to kind of, if anybody, do you ever watch the streaming series like on whatever, Netflix or whatever? There's, every story, right, has these, right, there's a build up and then the conflict and the resolution, all these things. And I've said this for years. What they did in streaming content, see, in the old days when we watched TV, there'd be the beginning, the build up, the conflict, the resolution, and that would be the end of the show, and you tune in next week. Well, what especially streaming people have done is they move that timeline a little bit to where that conflict happens right at the end of the episode. So as the episode's closing, you have this build up of what's going to happen, to keep you on the edge of your seat so that you see what happens next. And then usually it goes really quickly. It's like whatever you thought was going to be this big thing wound up being resolved in 5 minutes, and then they go into the next story.
They have to start working on the next.
Right. And so what's interesting about that is that's where we are in this story. Because if you listen to the last episode, and we're right up at the end, if you were watching this as a series, we're on chapter, we're doing 33, 34 today, something like that. Okay, so the where we are in this is Jacob is petrified and has sent all of these. Remember, we went through all this thing. He's sending all these gifts ahead because he's going back home after being exiled I say exiled. He exiled himself, and his mom kind of encouraged him to go find a wife. He's been with his uncle Laban for a while and spent 20 years. So now he's going back to where his homeland was, and he knows that he's got this confrontation with Esau. And so, as I brought up that analogy, it's like that's where we left off. And interestingly enough, as I said, there's so much fear in Jacob that he's scared to death to go because
it's not just Esau coming. He's bringing Esau
400 men.
400 men with him. So
because his messengers did this wonderful thing, and seeing he's coming, and he's got 400 men with him. So it probably feels ominous. Yeah.
If you saw somebody coming at you with 400 men, and the last thing he said to you was, "I'm going to kill you,"
yes,
you would have a bad feeling.
Yeah. So understandably, so that's where we are in the story. And I think you're going to see the other part of this because I used that description of as we tune into the next episode Because Jacob is scared for, as you were saying, understandably so.
Yeah.
Even though God had told him, "Hey, go back home," and there was the promise. Because you remember as he's doing this prayer, which I thought was one of the best parts of his
Right.
idea, was he goes to God first and does his prayer. Now we talk about that spiritual maturity. At the same time he's doing this, he's still trying to handle his own deliverance in this situation by sending these presents ahead.
Yeah.
And there's actually, I did some studying on that too, where he's saying he's going to go one way and he actually kind of goes in a different way. You kind of have to know the geography of, and so I did a little deep dive into that. So he was doing a little old Jacob there, trying to,
still trying to handle it himself. Right.
Right. Which we all do.
Yeah.
That's not a
very human nature to do that.
So, but today, that's where we're going to pick up, is right there where we're at with this meeting between the two brothers. In fact, that's where, and we want to go a little further in that. I don't know how far we're going to get, but let's go ahead and just pick up there from where we. And it looks like I was already. See, I'm on Genesis 38 on here, so let's go back 30. No, not 34. Right, we're
33.
going 33. So Genesis 33. Here we go. Verse 1. We're reading from the New King James Version. Now Jacob lifted his eyes and looked, and there was Esau coming, and with him were 400 men. So he divided the children among Leah, Rachel, and the two maidservants. And their children in front, Leah and her children behind, and Rachel and Joseph last. Then he crossed over before them and bowed himself to the ground 7 times until he came near to his brother. But Esau ran to meet him, embraced him, and fell on his neck and kissed him, and they wept. And he lifted his eyes and saw the women and children and said, "Who are these with you?" So he said, "The children whom God has graciously given your servant." Then the maidservants came near, they and their children, and bowed down. And Leah also came near with her children, and they bowed down. Afterward, Joseph and Rachel came near, and they bowed down. Then Esau said, "What do you mean by all this company which I met?" And he said, "These are to find favor in the sight of my Lord." But Esau said, "I have enough, my brother. Keep what you have for yourself." And Jacob said, "No, please, if I have now found favor in your sight, then receive my present from my hand, inasmuch as I have seen your face, as though I had seen the face of God, and you were pleased with me. Please take my blessing that it is brought to you, because God has dealt graciously with me, and because I have enough." So he urged him, and he took it. Then Esau said, "Let us take our journey. Let us go. I will go before you." But Jacob said to him, "My Lord knows that the children are weak, and the flocks and herds which are nursing are with me. And if the men should drive them hard one day, all the flock will die. Please let my Lord go on ahead before his servant. I will lead on slowly at a pace which the livestock that go before me and the children are able to endure until I come to my Lord in Seir. And Esau said, "Now let me leave with you some of the people who are with me." But he said, "What need is there? Let me find favor in the sight of my Lord." So Esau returned that day on his way to Seir. And Jacob journeyed to Succoth, built himself a house, and made booths for his livestock. Therefore, the name of this place is called Succoth. So I'll finish. We only have this a little bit more. So then Jacob came safely to the city of Shechem, which is the land of Canaan, when he came from Paddan Aram, and he pitched his tent before the city, and he bought the parcel of land where he had pitched his tent from the children of Hamor, Shechem's father, for 100 pieces of money. Then he erected an altar there and called it El Ohalui Israel. So that's the end of 33. And so, okay, so when I was bringing up that analogy of the streaming, this climactic moment that again Jacob thinks is going to be this confrontational conflict, ends up being this amazing moment where his brothers obviously forgiven him. It's been some time has passed, and I think, again, he still gives the blessing, the present to his brother. But as I said, it's so anticlimactic. You think, again, if you're looking at this through the eyes of Jacob, he is. I mean, you got to think the anxiety that probably hung on him.
Oh yeah.
To do this whole thing, and it ends up being like, hey man, let's go back together. You're my brother.
I honestly think it was intentional. I think it was the work of God to try to show Jacob that all of that stuff you did, all the presents and everything, I had already handled this and softened Esau's heart, because he actually says that. He's like, when I see you, it's like I have seen the face of God, where God had told him, I'm going to be with you. You got nothing to worry about. Then Jacob goes through all this turmoil, all this anxiety, and at the end of it all, my note said that the animals that he put out, the total was 550. So he sends 550 animals as gifts ahead of him. Then he splits his family into 3 groups, just so the one he loved the most is in the back.
Yeah.
So he set them up in order of, how he looked at them, apparently. So if things went bad, and then all of a sudden it was just like, so happy to see you, brother.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I love it too. Exactly what you said. It shows again, because I brought up the whole part about him trying to figure his own way out.
Yeah.
Even though he went to God, and God gave him the promise, like, hey, it's going to be okay. As you were saying, it's just so interesting how, look, God was already moving, was already there, and that's as I said, it's really interesting to see that. And so to surmise this, the 2 brothers are good.
Jake was being super submissive, though, right? He's really trying to be like, he's calling him Lord. He's like, I'm your servant. Take these gifts.
Please.
Take all this stuff.
And
again, when they argue about the gift, Esau's like, no, you keep what you have. But I honestly think all of that is just more of the plan, to where it was just set up to where Esau would never be able to say, I helped you in this moment,
right,
by not taking that gift, just so that all the glory goes to God in the end about the building of Israel.
Yeah. So there, and now Jacob has made that entire pilgrimage from Laban all the way back, and now he's set up camp in this place called Shechem, where he's bought some land from a guy for 100 pieces of money. And
now this is only the second deed owned by this family, right? So even though all the land is promised to the descendants, they don't own, there's no paper ownership except for these 2 parcels. Right,
which is the original Abraham, where again he gets buys the field and the cave, yep. And now this land in Shechem. So let's go right into this, because then as they are doing these everyday life things, because this is really where I think the bulk of where our discussion is going to come today. And this is a really difficult piece of scripture here. So here we go. This is 34:1. Now Dinah, if we remember, the daughter of Leah, whom she had borne to Jacob, went out to see the daughters of the land. I'm going to stop my glasses broke right here. How about that? I'm going to stop right here because this is a really weird statement. In that time, so I did the deep dive on this.
I read a little bit about that, yeah.
This was a lapse in between Dinah and the family. She should not have been venturing out on her own, because at this time, this was a lawless country, a lawless land, and as a young girl at that point, you were basically open for being attacked. Which again,
it almost makes it sound like she was just trying to find some companions, maybe see what was going on. We also see later on that maybe Jacob didn't have all of his house in order. There's still some idolatry stuff going on. You don't know where Dinah was and all that. You just don't know what her intention was about going out and meeting these women of the land or whatever she was trying to do.
Let's see if I can do this with one arm on my glasses.
Man, You got to play hurt sometimes.
Sometimes. So, and when Shechem, the son of Hamor, the Hivite, prince of the country, saw her, he took her and lay with her and violated her. His soul was strongly attracted to Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, and he loved the young woman and spoke kindly to the young woman. So Shechem spoke to his father Hamor, saying, "Get me this young woman as a wife." And Jacob heard that he had defiled Dinah, his daughter. Now his sons were with his livestock in the field, so Jacob held his peace until they came. Then Hamor, the father of Shechem, went out to Jacob to speak with him, and the sons of Jacob came in from the field when they heard it, and the men were grieved and very angry because he had done a disgraceful thing in Israel by lying with Jacob's daughter, a thing which ought not be done. But Hamor spoke with them, saying, "The soul of my son Shechem longs for your daughter. Please give her to him as a wife and make marriages with us. Give your daughters to us and take our daughters to yourselves. So you shall dwell with us, and the land shall be before you. Dwell and trade in it, and acquire possessions for yourselves in it." Then Shechem said to her father and her brothers, "Let me find favor in your eyes, and whatever you say to me I will give. Ask me ever so much dowry and gift, and I will give according to what you say to me. But give me the young woman as a wife." But the sons of Jacob answered Shechem and Hamor his father and spoke deceitfully because he had defiled Dinah their sister. And they said to him, "We cannot do this thing." Hold on. Let's stop right there because I have to at least explain this, because as we're reading this, there's two different meetings that happen here. So one is, okay, first let's go back to this. This is a really difficult thing that happens. So
Right.
Dinah is raped, essentially seized, raped, and not a good thing. And then there's this bizarre part where it talks about him loving her, which,
Right.
again, as I did a little deep dive on that, it was a carnal sort of lusting love. But again,
Yeah. So he was enamored by her, definitely, because
Yes.
he defiled her to start with. But the language in the verse there's no way you can escape or remove the fact that he did a disservice to this woman
yes,
and violated her. They say violated, grieved, a thing which shouldn't have been done. They mention all kind of verbiage to say this was a forcible
right.
rape on this woman.
And she and again, it was not welcomed.
Right.
So, which again, what is interesting too, you did a deep dive on this, but we can't get to the action was this. We got to get the reaction first, and then I'll let you explain because we talked about this earlier. But so the two different meetings that I'm talking about are, so after this happens and the son is enamored, his dad and him go and see Jacob and everybody and say, "Listen, this is what we want." And they make this offer like, "Hey, you go and do this thing. Let us marry. Let him marry. Give us." And then we all want to encourage all of it. Like let's all.
They wanted to integrate the two tribes, right? They
Absolutely.
Just wanted, now, and you got to remember that this whole thing about the line of Christ has been about not marrying into the Canaanites, right?
Right.
Isaac, Jacob all went away and got people from their own family
Yes.
to marry, because it was not acceptable to marry, because the line had to stay Israel.
Right. So then there's the second meeting is the one I'm getting ready to read. That's why I wanted to clarify, because it almost sounds like it's
all one big.
It's all one big meeting.
But the fathers talk, and now the son is talking to the sons.
Right. Now what's getting ready to happen is the sons are going to go to the sons, and this is where, as I said, so Jacob is not involved in these discussions. So I just wanted to clarify that. So the sons of Jacob answered Shechem and Hamor his father and spoke deceitfully because he defiled Dinah their sister. And they said to them, "We cannot do this thing to give our sister to one who is uncircumcised. For what would be a reproach to us? But on this condition we will consent to you. If you will become as we are, if every male of you is circumcised, then we will give our daughters to you. We will take your daughters to us. We will dwell with you, and we will become one people. But if you will not heed us and be circumcised, then we will take our daughter and be gone." And the words pleased Hamor and Shechem, Hamor's son. So the young man did not delay to do the thing because he delighted in Jacob's daughter. He was more honorable than all the household of his father. And Hamor and Shechem his son came to the gate of their city and spoke with the men of their city, saying, These men are at peace with us. Therefore let them dwell in the land, trade in it, for indeed the land is large enough for them. Let us take their daughters to us as wives, and let us give to them our daughters. Only on this condition will the men consent to dwell with us, to be one people. If every male among us is circumcised as they are circumcised, will not their livestock, their property, and every animal of theirs be ours? Only let us consent to them, and they will dwell with us. And all who went out into the gate of the city heeded Hamor and Shechem his son. Every male was circumcised, all who went out to the gate of his city. Now it came to pass on the third day, when they were in pain, that the two sons of Jacob, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, each took his sword and came boldly upon the city and killed all the males. And they killed Hamor and Shechem his son with the edge of the sword, and took Dinah from Shechem's house and went out. The sons of Jacob came upon the slain and plundered the city, because their sister had been defiled. They took their sheep, their oxen, their donkeys, what was in the city and what was in the field, and all their wealth, all their little ones and their wives they took captive, and they plundered even all that was in the houses. Then Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, You have troubled me by making me obnoxious among the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanites and the Perizzites, and since I am few in number, they will gather themselves together against me and kill me. I shall be destroyed, my household and I. But they said, Should he treat our sister like a harlot? And that's the end of the chapter there, not the end of this. And there's another cliffhanger.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen now? We may try to get through 35 today, but let's set this whole thing up. So this is one of the most horrific things that happens in the Bible. And the people doing it are the people of God.
Yeah.
God's chosen people are doing it. And so it is really hard. So when you're reading this, one is, so Dinah is raped, and I think we all can understand the reaction that her brothers felt.
Oh yeah, they were.
I mean, again, you can totally understand. Now, their reaction, there's a term in driving, right, called overcorrecting, which often leads to a wreck when you overcorrect. But I think in life that happens all the time too. People often try to overcorrect, and it ends up going way too far than it ever should have. And it feels weird to say overcorrect because there's nothing correct about what they did, but they overreacted for sure. And I mean, first off, there's a couple of things here. One is you could see that Shechem, his father, and the people of the city could see the advantage of if we mingle with it, look at all that they've got. They've got an amazing amount of livestock, probably, all the women, all these things that we could gain from them. So
and I looked that, so it made me think about that, right? And I'm thinking that these people were probably much more organized than Jacob's crowd because they had just got there, just set up.
Yeah.
They were probably a larger population. And they're looking at it like if we mingle with these people, I get this woman, and then we will just assimilate them, right? They'll just become one of us.
Yes.
And all of their stuff will be ours. So they're being a little bit deceitful also. It's like, let's make this deal, and then everything they have will become ours.
But they're again, and then there's something about this too where so on the side of Jacob's kids, talk about a false, a conversion. Like, first off, they didn't tell these people anything about a promise. That covenant of circumcision goes back to Abraham's covenant, which was something that the men kept in that family. But they weren't offering a real conversion. There was nothing about God in that entire thing. It was about be like one of us. Well, that meant also believing
Right.
You have to insert that into part of that too. But
Yet the intention was never to get them to become
Right.
part of this was intentional setup so that they could go in there and plunder this place.
And I
get
mean,
revenge.
I tried to do some because I kind of talked about this a little bit with you. There's not a whole lot of spirituality amongst the original fathers of the tribes of Israel, other than Joseph. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of spiritualness about these
Yeah.
guys,
And I
to be
think,
honest with you.
I think that's what we see
Including
in
this,
the
yeah.
next chapter is if we get into it today, it's basically Jacob cleaning house, right? He is reestablishing, because it just looks like that maybe the tribe of Israel is kind of a little shaken or not completely in line the way it should be just yet.
No,
But that does happen later on. But at this moment, I think there's a little bit of, I don't know, just turmoil in the way things are being done. And they definitely just went out on just completely.
So again, and then if you followed it like I did, as I know you did. I mean, so they talk every man in the city into having a circumcision, which, man, that took faith in those people to do it. Like the fact that all those men decided to do that. Think about that. That is an astonishing thing.
In verse 19, where it says, he was more honorable than all the household of his father. So they're talking about Shechem, the prince. So he had a good rapport with the people of his city.
Yeah.
He was the prince. They trusted him. He was, their future leader. That whole part of that meant that these people trusted in him more than they even did his own father, who was the king at the time. So he went out there and did his politicking.
Yeah.
And they fell right in line.
So as they're healing, Simeon and Levi decide to just massacre all the men, including the son and the father, and then kidnap all the women and children.
Took all the livestock.
Plundered
every house. I think it says.
Yeah, every house. Talk about being disappointed in your kids. So then that's where Jacob says at the end, "You have troubled me," which is so much of an understatement, because, I mean, he realized, guys, what have you done? I mean, you have literally created a horrible situation. And we're going to see this. I think we've got time to dive into this where we are here.
The way this thing ended, though, it made me think a little bit more on it. And I'm thinking this was exactly, so this is part of God's plan, right? That these kids went outside of what Jacob would have wanted them to do. But we've been hearing all through the first part of this story that God will deliver his enemies to his hand.
Yeah.
So this set up not just for this city, but for all of Canaan, right? They have to fight every tribe in Canaan to eventually get this land. And when they come back after Egypt, they have to go in there and do war with these tribes. And this is, and Jacob's right when he says that you've made me obnoxious to these people. But it's not just him; it's Israel.
Because now it is
a nation.
Yes, and I mean that's where you start to see now. We're starting to reference this as like a nation now. Like it's the first time we start to talk about the Israel. It's a mark against Israel.
Yeah, this next chapter is where it is going to start doing that.
Yeah. So let's just go ahead and go into that.
It's not a long chapter.
Hold on, because I was going to say, do you want to talk about this too? Because what's interesting is Levi, and you think about the tribe of Levi, the Levites, which is Levitical law. And so there are laws that get established 450-ish years or whatever. And
like the law of Moses, you would call it, right? And this is how the Jewish people were ruled. And they had a law for someone doing what happened to Dinah.
Yes.
This was way more expensive than what they had in the law.
Yeah.
And I've got it pulled up right here. I can read it.
Go ahead.
So it says, if a man finds a young woman who is a virgin, who is not betrothed, and he seizes her and lies with her, and they are found out. So this is exactly what just happened. You got to figure that seizes means that he took her against her will. Then the man who lay with her shall give to the young woman's father 50 shekels of silver, and she shall be his wife because he has humbled her, he shall not be permitted to divorce her all her days.
Yes.
So that's the law they made for this kind of horrible activity.
Yeah.
Which shows how much more over the top this was as far as punishment for what happened. And I don't know that I disagree with this, but because I mean, rape is a terrible thing, and you have to figure this is their sister.
Right.
I know they were mad. I mean, maybe just the son that did it, maybe the guy that did it would have been enough, but
yeah,
they went over the top. I think they punished the whole city.
Yeah, it was a little much, and then I did read that because they talked about the dowry, all these things. So because in the traditions in those times. So by the way, this crime that we obviously say this is an injustice. I mean, really, there was no court. This kid would have never been arrested. There was this was again. That's why at the beginning of it, I stopped two scriptures into it and said, the fact that Dinah's wandering that city by herself was a failure on Jacob's part as her father to let that happen. I hate to call him out, but I mean, truthfully, and the men of that.
Where were the brothers protecting her when she was just out there?
Right.
Yeah.
Just so anyway.
But again, it's all part of God's plan, right?
Yes. So let's go to 35. Because remember, everything's happened, and then the last thing we read is Jacob's freaking out because his sons have done this terrible thing. 35:1. But Then God said to Jacob, "Arise, go up to Bethel and dwell there, and make an altar there to God, who appeared to you when you fled from the face of Esau your brother." And Jacob said to his household and to all who were with him, "Put away the foreign gods that are among you. Purify yourselves and change your garments. Then let us arise and go up to Bethel, and I will make an altar there to God, who answered me in the day of my distress, and has been with me in the way which I have gone." So they gave Jacob and all the foreign gods which were in their hands and the earrings that were in their ears, and Jacob and then Jacob hid them under the terebinth tree which was by Shechem. And they journeyed, and the terror of God was upon the cities that were all around them, and they did not pursue the sons of Jacob. So Jacob came to Luz, that is Bethel, which is in the land of Canaan, he and all the people who were with him, and he built an altar there and called the place El Bethel, which is like a big redundancy.
Mm-hmm.
It's the house of God, where it's the
God of the house of God.
Yes. Yeah. God, where God appeared to him when he fled from the face of his brother. Now Deborah, Rebekah's nurse, died, and she was buried below Bethel under the terebinth tree. So the name of it was called Elon Bakuth. Then God appeared to Jacob again, and when he came from Paddan Aram, and blessed him, and God said to him, "Your name is Jacob. Your name shall not be called Jacob anymore, but Israel shall be your name." So he called his name Israel. Also God said to him, "I am God Almighty. Be fruitful and multiply. A nation and a company of nations shall precede you, and kings shall come from your body. The land which I gave Abraham and Isaac I give to you and to your descendants. After you I give this land." Then God went up from him in the place where he talked to him. So Jacob set up a pillar in the place where he talked with him, a pillar of stone, and he poured a drink offering on it, and he poured oil on it. And Jacob called the name of the place where God spoke with him, Bethel. Let's stop there before we get to the next part. All right, so after all of this stuff happens with the murder of all those men in the city, Jacob knows he's got to get out of there. God comes and says, "Look, you got to go, and I'm going to tell you let's go back to Bethel." And there's an interesting quote there where, first off, let's deal with the fact that he has to make this announcement there to say, "Let's get rid of the household gods right now and change your garments.
Purify yourself."
Purify yourself, which meant
this is what I meant by a reset, right? It's like Jacob. God is telling Jacob, "Look, we've kind of got off the path here. We need to do a hard reset
Yep.
and get this thing back in line with what God's will is.
And this gives me just 1 second to say this. So this is why I say when you make the commitment and decide you're going to go down this path and be a Christian, there are going to be times where your faith is going to falter and old you is going to show up and you're going to you backslide is what they say. You ever heard
that
that
used
term?
to be a term, yeah.
You are going to have these moments. And this is where this is dangerous time. This is breeding ground for the enemy to start to sort of tear away at your faith. Is people start to even question, was I even saved? Did I, you know what I mean? Was there ever any salvation in me? Trust me, we love to bury the old person and move on. And I wish it were that easy, but every now and then the old you likes to crawl up out of the grave and you gotta bury him again. And this is sort of what's happening with Jacob. It's like, he has these moments and he kind of comes out and then as you can see, his people are mingling amongst the people. And
we remember when he left Laban and took all of his possessions with him, Rachel was the one that brought the household gods with her because that is how she was raised. And apparently that wasn't snuffed out soon enough, right? So this thing has kind of permeated the whole tribe of Israel. It may have had something to do with the way the sons reacted to the rape. It may have been why Dinah was out there doing her thing. But when all that went down, God said, hey, we need a reset.
Yeah. Enough already.
Yeah, enough.
All right. Now, 35:16.
Well, let's talk about the terror of God.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah. Yeah. So you can tell when this is mentioned, this lets you know without a doubt that the people around them were plotting, and there were some. And look, when you've made some enemies, you've come in and killed all the men in the city.
What Jacob said is like, you've made me obnoxious to all these people. All of Canaan is now thinks I'm some kind of evil person.
Right, and they're like, we got to get rid of this guy. Yeah. But as they changed their garments, got rid of it. What's interesting, this is God protecting them. Everyone who had those plans said, you know what, we're going to let them go. We're going to let them go.
And I don't know how that happened, but God had put a fear into all of these tribes and went like, we cannot attack them right now.
Right.
And they just walked out of there with nothing.
Just walked out of there. Yeah. All right. So he goes and he builds this thing at Bethel. This is 35:16. Then they journeyed from Bethel, and when there was but a little distance to go to Ephrath, Rachel labored in childbirth, and she had hard labor. Now it came to pass when she was in hard labor that the midwife said to her, do not fear, you will have this son also. And so it was, as her soul was departing, for she died. Then she called his name Ben-Oni, but his father called him Benjamin. So Rachel died and was buried on the way to Ephrath. That is Bethlehem, by the way. How about that?
Mm-hmm.
And Jacob set a pillar on her grave, which is a pillar of Rachel's grave to this day, which was in that day. I don't know that it's still there to
right.
They
were
day.
Saying when Moses wrote these words, you would still be able to see that pillar at that time.
Then Israel journeyed and pitched his tent beyond the tower of Edar. And it happened when Israel dwelt in the land that Reuben went and lay with Bilhah, his father's concubine, and Israel heard about it. Now, Israel is his father. We got to start doing this thing where it's.
Yeah.
See, Abraham was a lot easier because they're close, but Jacob and Israel start to sound like two different people, which really they are when you, if you measure it by God's standards. But they are the same person, essentially.
Now, this was one of the things that kind of caught me. Like, why did they mention this?
It seems like a blurb, right?
Yeah. Why would you just throw this out there about Reuben? Was it Reuben?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Reuben sleeps with his father's concubine.
Yes.
Which isn't it his mother's handmaid?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's
just
a
disrespectful thing.
A very disrespectful thing. And what it does is it's just like when we heard that Leah had a daughter, Dinah. Right? They mentioned that back in a couple of chapters ago, and it was just kind of thrown in there. She's the only daughter mentioned by name. We know he had a lot of daughters, but this was the only one mentioned by name because of that thing that we just
story
read.
that was going to happen.
So it's kind of like
same
setting
thing
up
here.
It's backstory so that when you see these things later on, which we will see why they mentioned this, I think it's chapter 49, where we see what happens because of this disrespect that Reuben showed his father.
Was not a good thing.
And Reuben's the firstborn, so he's the oldest of the sons.
Interesting
Which made
stuff.
it even more of a disrespectful thing.
All right, so we were at 23, which I didn't finish. It actually goes, and it happened when Israel dwelt in the land, and Reuben went and lay with Bilhah, his father's concubine, and Israel heard about it. Now the sons were 12. The sons of Leah were Reuben, Jacob's firstborn, and Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. The sons of Rachel were Joseph and Benjamin. The sons of Bilhah, Rachel's maidservant, were Dan and Naphtali. And the sons of Zilpah, Leah's maidservant, were Gad and Asher. These were the sons of Jacob who were born to him in Paddan Aram. Then Jacob came to his father Isaac at Mamre, or Kirjath Arba, that is Hebron, where Abraham and Isaac had dwelt. Now the days of Isaac were 180 years. So Isaac breathed his last and died, and was gathered to his people, being old and full of days, and his sons Esau and Jacob buried him. So, and by the way, we hadn't even heard anything about Isaac for a long time, and it just all of a sudden, hey, Isaac's still alive.
Now, and remember, when Jacob left because Esau was going to kill him as soon as his father died, everybody thought Isaac was on his way out right then.
Yes.
Now, you're talking about almost 30 years, around 30 years have passed. He spent 20 with Laban, working for for all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Then he's traveling through all of these things. All this stuff happens with the Shechem and all that mess with Dinah. And I think my Bible referenced that it was about 8 years.
Yeah.
So 28 to 30 years has passed, and now Isaac has finally died. And to me, that whole chapter is kind of the end of that last set of patriarchs, and is now moving to Israel being the head of this family, right? And if we can back up a little bit, the fact that it mentioned that Deborah, Rebecca's handmaid, died was another one of those things. It's like, why did they just throw that in there? And what I found out was that Rebecca's death is never mentioned.
Yeah.
So we have to assume that she has passed. So now Deborah is the one that has kind of taken her role in the matriarch, and her passing is the end of that line, right? Where there's no mention of her ever having children for Isaac. So I don't think none of that happened. I think they just had Esau and Jacob because it took her so long to conceive. And so, but she was the next in line, I guess, for that seat. Anyway, that's why they mentioned that, is because it's kind of a closure of the old set of rulers, and now it's all Jacob, Israel.
And so one of the things I kind of gleaned out of this whole thing was emotional reactions. So I'm going to go all the way back to, because when we started today's podcast, we were talking about Esau and Jacob finally coming together after all those years. When everything immediately happened and Jacob stole the blessing. Remember that was, and he didn't. He was going to get it anyway. God said the younger is gonna be the one, and but Isaac he kind of favored Esau, and that was the way he wanted it done. And so when all this happened, remember the emotions of Esau were, I'm gonna kill him. I'm so mad, I'm gonna kill him, and as soon as my dad dies, because my dad doesn't want me to kill him. But it's interesting how that forced time, if you fast forward to, so Isaac finally dies. And remember, that was the problem. He probably even said, I swear to you, when my dad dies, I'm going to kill you. When his dad died, they buried him together as brothers. Yep. And it's amazing how when you can, one of the things of that we have to work on, obviously, as Christians, and that the Holy Spirit can help with, is your self-control. Because emotional reactions are often the worst reaction you can have. And so take that. So if Esau had reacted in that moment, without that clause of my father dying, which gave him a buffer
Mhm.
of time to have a better decision, in which he did.
Yeah.
And then you take these sons, Simeon and Levi, and they said all the brothers, I guess, who were able to
Right.
participated in this horrific thing. So their emotional reaction did not have a buffer, and they acted on it.
Mhm.
And I think that is the lesson that you can pull out of this, to say, if you can take some time and allow your decision or your reaction to not come from the emotional place, I think it's often a better decision.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the lesson learned with Jacob and
And of
Esau
course,
as opposed to the sons.
it is speculation, but you figure that 30 years that Isaac is still there with Esau, I'm assuming that they're still in the same area.
Yeah.
There's no telling how many father-son talks he had with that about this whole situation in 30 years. You know, they had to talk about it. And of course, again, I'm just speculating, but you have to think that something like that happened, which probably was God working through Isaac to soften Esau's heart.
And I mean, it's, as I said, it's just interesting to watch this really dysfunctional family. And I think the other part of this is you kind of left with going, man, how undeserving is this family to continue to get this blessing after all the things that they've done? And you're like, why is this? And it's not God rewarding the bad deed. It's God's grace that's really stands out here. It's like, in spite of what you've done to try to ruin this thing,
Yeah,
I'm going to get you through this, because grace is you getting what you don't deserve. It's not a settlement of debt. It's not, well, you owed 600, so there's 600 on it. It's like, not only do you not owe money, but whatever you need. Like, I mean, it's
Right,
like you
yeah.
don't even deserve that. It's like,
Right.
so I think that really stands out too, as we start to see that. And you've got to start looking at that as not only something for them, but something that happens with us. I mean, I cannot move without grace, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But, and it kind of goes back to, as I said, sometimes the old person will pop himself up, that old you that wants to do it your way instead of,
Because we're smart, we
Oh,
we know what has to happen, and we see. And to me, I can't read anything like this without looking at God outside of what we consider. We're limited to time and space, and He's not. And to me, He can say the older will serve the younger, because He already knew that Jacob was
Yeah.
going to steal the birthright. He saw that the sons were going to create enemies in Canaan by doing that punishment for their sister. He's already seen all that. Time is laid out to God. That's how He's all-knowing, because He's not restricted by time or space. None of that affects Him. He created those things.
Yeah. And again, I was telling you that, when I think about these brothers, because to sort of sneak preview the next episode. So if you're going to read ahead,
Please do read it.
please do, because when we come back, we're going to go ahead and tell you that we're going to skip over like the next chapter or so to some degree and just kind of hit some hot points, because we're not going to. It's a challenge in reading a lot of names that you're not able to pronounce, and it just goes through the lineage. And this is more of that record keeping, if you will, of keeping up with the lineages of the different families. And it's like I said, there's different factions. We'll kind of explain a little bit of that, but then we're going to get right into just the next part of this. Because again, I think, if you're familiar, these same knuckleheads that did this, and that's a light term, to pull off this mass murder episode, are the same knuckleheads that push Joseph in a pit because they're sick of him.
Right.
Which again, it brings me, so to close on this thing, it's everybody sees bad stuff happening all the time. And I think the question gets asked every day, how does God let bad things happen? Why does God let bad things happen? And again, I don't want to go through all the minutia of the generational curse that we've given ourselves from sin being in our world, not to mention the fact that there's an evil one out and manipulating things as well. But But ultimately, what you see is exactly what we say. God is going to work out these things, even when they don't look good. And again, that's the problem is we don't, because you brought this up, we can't see the future.
Right.
We can't see what this is. And like I said, oftentimes it's not ever going to make sense. There are things that happen sometimes in this realm that we're never going to be able to understand until I think we are at in the different world. Because as I said,
I heard a really good analogy about why bad things happen, and
Yeah.
I'm sure you've heard it before. Most people probably have, but it's the whole thing where it says there is no dark. There's only the absence of light.
yes,
There's no cold. There's just the absence of heat. Sin is just the absence of God.
yes,
If you remove God out of a situation, sin is the ultimate result you're going to get. Those bad things are happening because God is being pulled further and further away.
yeah. It's as I said, a lot to pull out of this. But as I was saying, when you read it, it gets confusing because it's like, why these people don't deserve a lot of the things that they're getting, and you know what? Neither do we.
Yeah.
I think when it gets down to it. So
that one last point about the end of this thing, when you see Esau and Jacob come together to bury their father, very reminiscent of Isaac and Ishmael coming together to bury Abraham.
Absolutely.
It's almost the exact same scenario. You could see the same picture happening both times. Ishmael is going to be contention against Israel. The Edomites are also going to be, in the future, they're going to be a little bit of a enemy against Israel.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
There's a reason for all of it. So yeah, that's on episode 55. That we'll talk a little bit about the future and or the lineages, and get into the next part of this. It's it's moving quick.
Getting down there, bud.
All right, Heavenly Father, thank you so much for your presence, for your grace, for your mercy. But thank you. We're praying for peace. We're praying certainly for everybody out there. But thank you for giving us this opportunity again to talk about your word. And we thank you for all things. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right. Episode 55 is next. Have a wonderful time. Until then, bye-bye.